We live, King.
All right, brother. Yeah, man. Like I mentioned to you, I'm here right now with the brother Moruf, MC,
Peace.
artist. I've had the pleasure of collaborating him with the past. You may have heard him on Private Stock, on Medicine Man.
Yes,
And,
yes.
I have long history with the brother. I just, as I mentioned to you, and this is not our first time attempting this, and I'm not bashful about saying that,
Yo,
because
practice makes better. Practice makes better.
practice makes better. And yesterday we were able to converse. I felt touched by words that I told you that you expressed on your Instagram stories after Takeoff passed away, and it
Yeah.
just struck me, and it stuck with me that day. I think recognizing also another black brother, expressing thoughts that I felt like I shared, but that's also
Yeah.
another rapper, and that's also another father, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't want to just go on live and have kind of an interrupted conversation where I think it could serve the culture of us archiving the fact that we are taking the time to have real conversations and express and not just
Facts.
react right to these things. But if you don't mind, just share a bit of like the reaction you had or some of the thoughts that you shared on your Instagram story that I'm mentioning.
Man. I think the reaction was it was a melting pot of many different emotions, but like in a nutshell, it was just more so element of frustration than an
Mm,
element of helplessness.
mm,
Like damn, like it really sucks. These individuals, bust their ass, sacrifice to get the fuck about in the city of poverty or whatever you want to call it, whatever's politically correct and shit, and how certain aspects are, you might not be there physically, but
right.
due to what was planted mentally in many of the individuals, whether it's fear, whether it's not knowing how to handle emotions, just like wherever you go, it's still within. You feel what
Right.
I'm saying?
Right. Right.
So,
Right.
a nigga gonna be a nigga regardless, and a crackhead gonna be a crackhead regardless. A thief gonna be wherever
Yeah.
you are who you are. What's the whole line? You was who you was before you got here, type shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But moreover, it was just real sad. Like, damn, this is an individual who, out of the bunch, seems to be the most quiet, wholesome,
Right. Right.
and just and moreover the gun violence. You feel what I'm saying? And it
Mm.
felt as though this was a repetition of what occurred within the past weeks from the PNB rocks,
Mm-hmm.
from the Young Dolph, Trouble, and numerous amounts of individuals who might not even be famous, but
Of
this
course.
shit is happening.
Right. It's
You get
happening.
me?
It's plaguing our community. I think we expect our famous folks to be making it past that, and they're showing us
Yeah,
almost like there's no escape. It's funny you
yeah,
mentioned the PNB Rock, God bless the dead. That brother, that was very recent, right? And
yeah.
it was just a couple weeks before that, even in LA, that Quando Rondo's best friend was murdered, and I think he was there, right?
He was there in
And
the car. Yeah,
right, and
yeah,
back then, I'm saying back then like it was a long time ago, but those
yeah.
weeks we were discussing whether or not black men should, if it's safe for them to wear gold, right? To wear any
Yeah,
displays of
yeah.
success, instead of
And
mourning
my
the
fault,
fact,
and mind you, it's within us to be flashy niggas. Like
yeah,
it's
to
within us.
shine,
It's always been like that.
to
You know what
shine,
I'm saying?
yo, to shine, right?
Yeah,
And we were criticizing his partner for possibly posting their location.
yeah,
So
yeah,
basically, you can't have brunch with your girlfriend and look nice. That's essentially what we were saying,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
that's really awful in of itself. So I'm just wondering how much this is becoming so normalized. I remember telling you yesterday, and I'm jumping around a bit, but
It's all Jay we had.
seeing his body too, right, circulating.
Yeah.
Like I was watching videos of his body circulating, and it was like a mixtape logo over the body, right? Um,
Gotta get my promo off
yo,
regardless.
I just
Subscribe. They
yeah,
probably had
it's
subscribe
so
on the
wild.
bottom or some
It
shit.
That's how
Yeah.
normal it is. We're normalizing the death of ourselves. Our parents saw the normalizing of the death of their leaders, and I guess for a lot of the youth, these are our leaders. For better or worse,
To a certain degree, yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
Quite as good. Quite as good.
Yeah.
Quite as good.
Um,
That's a fact.
and I remember yesterday you mentioned something about brothers not being able to get a grip on their emotions, because now we're days in, and I mean weeks in now, or almost a weeks in, and we're finding out that it's like friendly fire is how he lost his life, as if that's supposed to be any consolation to the fact that he still died to gun violence in the heat of something in an exchange that didn't warrant that, and never does.
Yeah. I really think it's two things that pop in my head. The first thing that pops up is, unfortunately, people not valuing life, human life. It's like it might be us being desensitized and feeling as though it's so disposable, and it's like it kind of became part of the hip hop culture to a certain degree. Like, niggas die, throw the nigga on a t-shirt, you get me? Let's make a song. It's kind of become, but people don't realize, like, that's a nigga, that's a woman's son.
Right.
You get me? That aspect. So I think people not
that's
valuing life, it plays a huge aspect. Like, if you really value life, first and foremost, you would move different for yourself. You get me? And you wouldn't be so quick to be like, let me pull out a gun. And the second thing that comes to even pulling out the gun, and we spoke on it briefly yesterday, was not knowing how to handle your emotions, and and realizing that, respectfully, black men specifically, from what I'm noticing, like, we moving in fear.
Yeah, yo.
So we try to protect ourselves. So we like, oh, the man's might have a burner. I don't know. So you walking out the crib nervous.
Right.
You feel me? Imagine walking out the crib knowing you have an op. That's such a corny. I'm not gonna say corny disrespect, but that's such a nerve-wracking way to live. It is. Like, your blood pressure
it is a disrespect. It's a lack of respect, like you said, a lack of respect for life. And I think why I want to have these conversations is to figure out how do we get to restoring some of that. I remember when I heard you express your thoughts on your Instagram, there was a maturity there that resonated with me, with both fathers, as I mentioned. And right after that, I happened to put together that Reverend Calvin Butts passed away. So for those who may not remember, in our childhood, at least, if you were a child in the 90s, Reverend Calvin Butts from the Abyssinian Church in Harlem was famous. He was on television for, protesting and critiquing gangster rap specifically, right? And I remember telling you that I laughed when my big bro Shaka, we laughed when we saw that they were bulldozing all the CDs, and they had like a Tribe Called Quest CD in the mix, and I was like, they're not the issue. That's
not that. Yeah.
They're not the problem. So, so I started thinking about that. I started thinking about Calvin Butts and how he was like a villain. He was like a villain to hip hop, right?
Yeah.
But
during that time,
at that time, right? And the argument against him was like, hey, we're reporting on our environment. We're expressing the truth about our community that's not shown. We're showing America the conditions under how we live, and we're expressing from that. And another critique people had was, why are you not attacking the industry that sponsors this? Why are you attacking the artists?
That's pushing it out. Yes.
That's putting it out. And that's a critique we hear today. And so what was interesting to me, Moo, was that I heard you expressing similar things about the music, the art that we support, kind of like perpetuating the culture of violence. And I was like, wow, we've kind of become not Calvin Butts, but in line with what he was saying. But then it made me realize, we were children and younger, and those artists, they were younger than we are now. They weren't like men in their 30s with children. And it makes me wonder, like, if they were more mature or wiser, would they have more commonality, I guess, with what Calvin Butts was trying to say? Because who would have thought, who would have predicted then that we would lose like Tupac and Biggie, and we would have martyrs, and we have all these hip hop martyrs, and we still keep generating these hip hop martyrs, right?
Yeah. My fault, like, you kind of getting me excited the way you talking. Pause. It's just mad shit popping in my head. It's just like, giving, like yesterday we brought up the Puff situation, right? Like when Puffy, he dressed up as a Joker for Halloween, he got to a little confrontation with old boy from Power,
Michael J. Ferguson.
Respectfully, thank you for mentioning his name. And rather than Puffy give you 9-3, young boy Puffy.
Right.
You get me?
Right.
He gave you 52-year-old billionaire. I'm wise. I've been through it. Let me move with love rather than move in a sense of fear or proving something, because he also has so much to lose now.
Yes.
And he has so much wisdom.
Yes.
But with wisdom, you can't buy wisdom. You get me? Wisdom comes with fucking time. So it's just like, it sucks that we not even giving some of these artists opportunities to receive, like, niggas, you get me? Niggas is dying before they receive the wisdom. Like, I'm saying Malcolm X was a tyrant before he was Malcolm X, respectfully. He was outside. Mm-hmm. But with time, he was able to receive that, wisdom. And I think that's kind of where we are now, to answer your question. Like, you get me? When we was in our teens or our 20s, men's was not that, we didn't have that much wisdom. We thought we knew it all, so we moving like, we're not thinking about our kid.
Young bucking.
Yeah. But it's just like, now, okay, we planting seeds, we raising children, and we're seeing
Wait, hold on 1 second.
They're so receptive to it. So it's like, we're going to be more cautious. And it's just like, it's crazy. I don't want to look like the corny teacher that's like, don't listen to that. But it's, I'm just really, I'm realizing that, it starts with the music.
It does. It starts with
or it plays a part.
Yeah, it plays a part. The music plays a part, and I mean, I listen to gangster rap or what's considered gangster rap, street rap. I call it street rap. It like hip hop will always have the voice of the street, and like you can't, it's not.
And mind you, it's different layers to it. Because I remember, like, we had the MOP. I remember even listening to Nature. Like, he wasn't a street nigga, but he was telling you, you get me, it's different layers to the street, but it's a necessity.
I remember when I was young, someone pointed out to me, I went to one of these, like, they used to have like panels, hip hop panels and conferences. And I believe her name is Nzinga Stewart, is a black woman who is a video director that did the Jay-Z Sunshine video. She was a young black, at the time, video director, and she directed videos for Jay-Z and Common and those type of artists. I think she even did Bilal, like Soul Sister. She was like rising at the time, right? But I heard her speak once, and she mentioned how, Jay-Z and Common, they rap about the same things, right? But they just got dubbed, like genre-wise, they got dubbed like conscious and street or whatever, but they rap about the same things, and I thought that was so interesting.
It is true.
To your point, but
some might highlight things differently, but
it's
the same,
to your point, to the layers point, the nuance in that, being able to see the nuance in that comes with the wisdom too. You know what I mean? And maybe with age, I don't want to be a person that now critiques how the culture chooses to express its stuff, when especially knowing what the cultures come from, right? But what's the result now? We dying. Like Lupe Fiasco, he mentioned in his song, he was like, rappers die too much. That's the verse. And that was it. And it's like, it's not funny. It's too true that's all that needs to be said,
it gets to a certain point, right? And I was just watching the Freddie Gibbs interview on Rap Radar, and I felt that. But it gets to a certain point, like, we don't want to be those old head I told you so ass niggas, right? But if it's in the cause for another black man's or woman's life, I'll be that nigga. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's just like, it comes from, I don't mean to jump around, but it comes from a place of like the ego. And I just think, even Freddie said it, he was like, if Takeoff, rest well, but if Takeoff would have survived, and it would have been video of him getting beat up or some shit like that, he would have been a meme, right? He would have been a meme, so niggas would have been embarrassing. And let's be respectfully, I'm not sure if the meme shit is ran by the man or whatever, or bots, but like, the thing about black people, which I love, yo, we the first to gas a nigga,
Yeah.
but we will be the first to roast a nigga because
Yeah,
we just
yeah,
naturally
yeah.
funny.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it could be the end of the world, we gonna roast the end of the world. That's just who we are. But moreover, it'd be us roasting us. So he was like, it would have been embarrassment, right? But now that he passed, now it's like people kind of put him at this place, like So he's like, Freddie was like, it's either embarrassment or death.
Yeah, or
And he was
you
like,
become they trivialize your death. Now you're a symbol.
Yeah.
You become this fake martyr. But you know what it does make me think actually is we've lost an ability to, I think there's a part of our culture where the meme aspect, right? You know, someone trips, your instinct might be to laugh until you see that they're hurt. Then you run to help, right? And I think the oversight is not in how our human nature, our humanity, because I think we constantly demonstrate humanity, right? We're teaching and re-civilizing the world by demonstrating humanity because of the position that we have to occupy, where we always have to prove our humanity, right? So we naturally laugh at pain and things like that. The oversight to me, the oversight to me is that we forget the power we have culturally as an impact. We don't always realize that we're the ones dictating the culture of Twitter. We're the ones dictating the culture of Instagram. We're the ones dictating the culture of Vine, TikTok, all of these platforms, Snapchat, right? So when we tell them that it's okay to show us and our bodies in death, that's what it'll show. So to your point, maybe the music does play a role in that. I think, you know, it is, you know, and it's just interesting now. Here we're having this discussion as we're losing people, and Calvin Butts lost in the same weekend, right? And you brought up Puff. Ironic. That's true. You know, This is Puff who like sent bottles to Steve Stout. You know what I mean? Like they come from that era where violence in the record industry, you know, they weren't strangers, and like you said, they've lost things, they've lost people, relationships, and somehow the message isn't translating. The music still gets promoted the same, right? I had a brother tell me he separated himself from a well-known rap label and crew, and he said, he was like, yo, the more people they murdered, the more successful they got. The more bodies, the more people they murdered in their raps, the more successful it got. And I had to distance myself from that. And this was a street dude. You know, I had OGs. Just Ice told me the street shit is the street shit. This is hip hop. And this Just Ice. This like the father of East Coast gangster rap. You know what I mean? So shout outs Just Ice. But it's like, I don't know what's missing if it's us. Like, are we doing too much hating on the young gods where they don't feel embraced? You know, I don't know what it is, you know?
To be honest, I feel like it's a few things, like, because this is the thing, you get me? It has to be pros and cons. It's like, it just can't be a bunch of common ass niggas. It just can't be a bunch of Kendrick ass niggas. It has to be.
That's not our experience. We don't have one experience.
Nah, but the thing about it is when we are noticing that those who are telling the narrative of the dark side is being funded the most, and we are realizing like, damn, this seems like a way to control in a different way, you know, or rather than us getting rid of them, let's have these niggas get rid of themselves, you know. And I could be on some Ultra Hotep or conspiracy shit, but it's just, you know, like I said, the dynamic is necessary, but something has to. I don't know what. It's like that's when I start to feel hopeless, because who am I to tell someone? And I'm art first.
Yeah.
But who am I to tell someone you shouldn't paint like that?
Right. That's how I feel as an artist.
Be honest, like, who am I? You feel me?
But let me ask
artist.
you. I'm gonna ask you something complicated now as a father, right? This is where it gets tricky. Now, I'm sure you have insight on what art you would allow your child to see and when.
Yeah.
If you felt the art would potentially sway them toward feeling bad about themselves or hurting themselves or getting comfortable with the idea of them being hurt, you probably would limit their access to it, right?
For sure. No question.
Yeah,
no
so
question.
it's tricky. You know, when I was listening to the Calvin Butts interview that I sent you, there was a part that was interesting. WBLS was interviewed in that, and they were talking about not playing gangster rap. And I was like, oh, here we go, right? But then when they asked them like to speak further on that, they were like, yo, we're not saying you shouldn't make gangster rap or not listen to it. We're saying we're not gonna play it. There's a market and there's a place where you can go and purchase that. You know, you can go buy that there where you want to access it, right? Like pornography. Like you can go purchase porn in the place where it's appropriate to.
Yeah, in the cut where.
Right? And I'm not saying that gangster rap is porn, but it is more violent. It's more.
I feel you.
Yeah.
I feel you.
Right.
I feel you.
So there's a place for it to exist. Maybe you're right. I don't want to necessarily critique the person making it for their right to express that.
Yeah.
But we don't get. You're right. There's an imbalance in how much of that is accessible to the young people, and the young people have now put that as canon for them to, you know, that's what they're studying. You know.
When you're young, you're so like we are even now as grown as men, we're sponges. But when you're young, you're that much more receptive. You get me? That's why when Nova, my daughter, like we watching Gullah Gullah Island or Barney, like you feel what I'm saying, or we not watching Paid in Full as she's 2. You feel what I'm saying? Like respectfully.
Nah, me and my son watching Paid in Full, baby.
Nah, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not certain shit.
Yeah.
But my whole point that I was trying to make, is just like with the kid, it's just that's the thing. Like we're going back to like who are we to tell someone to paint? But it's difficult now. It's extremely difficult. Because that parental sticker on the bottom right corner is that much more difficult now because kids have phone technology, the accessibility of it.
That doesn't even mean. That's so funny you brought that up. You know, parental advisory was the sticker on the CD. What is the equivalent of that now for like a song they heard on TikTok that you didn't even realize they were listening to because the video they watched was of something unrelated to the song, right? And the song might be terribly violent or what have you. You know what I'm saying?
Technology has overthrown the purpose of that at this point. You feel what I'm saying? Like back in the day, it was easy for you to like grab your son or daughter's headphones, or you had to have a tangible. You get me? You couldn't hide a record. You couldn't really hide a CD like that.
Right.
You sharing a room with your sister or whatever. Like your parent can hear it, but now it's just like. Yo, the discography's on the phone. Like, young boys just having iPhones at 8 or whatever. So it's just like, and that's the thing. Like you said, it's not to be. I don't think we should limit. I don't think we should just wipe out that drill shit because to a certain degree it is. But you know, the fact that it's being funded, but the reason why it is being funded, let's keep it a buck, because as humans, niggas love that shit.
As Americans, yo. As Americans, they put it on black culture, but we've been fascinated. Americans, since Westerns, gangster movies, that's very American. I don't know, you know, but at the same time, here we are always on the most detrimental receiving end of what the aftermath is on these things. You know what I mean? And, you know, so, yeah, that's very interesting. I remember when we parted ways on our last conversation, I mentioned I didn't expect us to have the solution, you know, on what to do. You know, it's just that I think I want to demonstrate that we are having these conversations, as I mentioned, and it helped me think, well, what could I do? You know, what am I gonna do? I don't necessarily. I rap about my experiences I've seen and been, you know, in near proximity to gun violence. That's not something I want my child to be exposed to, but I live in New Orleans, bro. Like, gun violence is a reality here. And it's not just because of the music and the art that young black men are making, young black people are making. At the same time, all I can do is what I do, right? You know what I'm saying? And continue to do that, and you do what you do. I think personally, I'm not going to get my fix off of the other type of music that I enjoy that is adult, that is street. I'm probably not going to get that from the platforms where, like, those who don't want to see me prosper profit off of me going there to take that in. So that's a step. I'm not saying we need to boycott things either, because that
not at all.
That's not that doesn't seem to be effective. But I think maybe we can be more mindful of the choices we make on a small level, because I think people don't know what to do. Like you said, we don't know how to feel, and that's another reason why I didn't want to go live. I didn't want this to be just like, these niggas talking about this takeoff shit again. That's what's up, peace, we out. Like, nah, we talking about this because I want to hear from you. I want to hear from other people that I love and respect. I want to hear from people in the community who don't have the same opinions that I have too, because it clearly we need some solutions now more than just like reactions, you know.
I agree with you. Like, obviously, the solutions are not going to be found or solved after this conversation, but I do see the importance, and I'm holding the same sentiment that I held yesterday. I do see the importance of having this dialogue. I do see the importance of the dialogue, you know, Lord willingly, you know, becoming an action that's followed, you know. And like you said, it's just like being a better version of myself and ourselves. So I think that's the first step. You get me? Yeah. It's like millions of steps. Or I feel it's like affinity of steps, if that makes any sense. But you feel what I'm saying? It's like it's necessary. You feel what I'm saying? So also, I mentioned it yesterday. I'm going to highlight it again. It's just like the realizing that the a part of the steps is more so of an internal than feeling like it's so external. Like, you just can't tell, you know, people who grew up in trauma seeing their best friend die in front of them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or seeing a parent die in front of them. Or even growing up, like, nigga, my grandfather blood, nigga, fuck you talking about. Like, it's really part of their
it's ingrained,
culture. It's tradition. You feel what I'm saying? Yes. So who are you to tell someone, yo, put that gun down? Fuck is you talking about? You know,
I might get shot putting this gun down.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It's more so of something like we have to. It's an eternal battle first.
Yeah, it's an eternal battle, and it is definitely a communication thing too. We mentioned yesterday talking about the presence of the OG. If we still listen to our OGs, if we have our OGs, we got OGs out here that's or people who occupy that space maybe that don't realize they have. I actually grew up with you know, with Shotty, aka Treyway, that managed Tekashi 6ix9ine. You know, I know him since childhood. I actually knew Tekashi as well as a younger person. A lot of people did in Bushwick, seeing him. But, you know, that was his OG to some degree. And that maybe didn't pan out the best way for them both, you know. And, you know, I mentioned yesterday, there's OGs of mine that I knew as a younger man that I still speak to now that I'm older, right? I still tap in, not even specifically to get, you know, it's just you kind of got to, you know, and then after we got off the line yesterday, you know, the Honorable Minister Farrakhan gave his message, which was interesting. And I feel like it's funny because it doesn't come up on Google and it doesn't come up when you search on YouTube, right?
Of course not, bro.
And regardless of the controversies he's speaking on, which is another conversation, I think one takeaway that was important is this, like that we need to have conversation with each other within our community, whether that be hip hop, whether that's black men, especially as the purveyors and the victims of this kind of violence. We need to be able to start really with love, kind of like discussing this and getting to the root of ourselves, having some knowledge of ourselves, so we could get to this point where we can have wisdom and understanding about who we are and all of that. You know what I mean?
It's funny that you say, you know, the whole knowledge and stuff. Before we got on the chat, I did watch the ministers, John. So enlightened.
Powerful, yo.
Oh my gosh. I also watched Jeru the Damager and Lauren Hill conversation. You remember
from back in the day?
Yeah. I just watched little clips. I was just going through my archive on some IG shit, just like I was looking for something, right? And I saw this clip, and I might repost it because I feel like it's so purposeful right now. But just Jeru just saying like, you know what the solution is? The solution is knowledge of self. And you feel what I'm saying? And it's just like, damn, you feel what I'm saying? It's such a simple term. Yeah. But, you know, that's why I said it's more of an internal situation, and knowledge itself can be played and done in in many different formats. Obviously, with, you know, through therapy, just knowing your emotions. If you know your emotion, if you control your emotion, if you know your ego. If I don't know my ego, if I don't know how to control my emotions, and I have a disagreement with you, Cav, it can easily turn into fight. It can
Go
easily
left.
turn into like, yo, I hate weird niggas with army fatigue and gold
Yeah.
teeth. Like,
And now life is lost. You know what I'm
for
saying?
no
Life is
reason.
lost.
But if you know how to articulate your emotions, if you know how to express yourself, if you realize, if you look at, if I'm like, yo, this is my brother,
Yeah.
regardless of like walks of life,
But see,
I'm gonna move
here's the
like that
thing.
with you.
We not taught that, bro. None of us are taught that, and now we don't want to hear that from the OGs, right? We don't want to hear that from Minister Farrakhan, who's in his 80s. And it's interesting because I was telling a homie that reminded me of a moment where, like, you know, your grandmother friend or somebody go to church. That one day you went to church, like you don't really be going to church like that, and it was like
You didn't
somebody
you didn't
baby
even want to
christening.
go. You didn't even
Like you
go
don't, you
that
know what I
day.
mean?
Yeah,
And then you
yeah.
pulled up, and like an elder that you knew, that you loved when you was a kid, saw you and stopped you and was like, "Yo, you know you ain't living right, doing that thing, da 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 da," and you kind of walk away like, "Damn, like
I needed to hear that. Yeah.
that's what that felt like." And I felt embarrassment in us. Like I was like, when you talk about the embarrassment of the meme, right? Of like, had he survived just a beating, I felt the embarrassment in us that we don't value life, that our elders are still having to come back and tell us what to be mindful about and how not to destroy ourselves and while everyone watches. Yo, it was just, oh man, there was so many levels to it. You know what I mean? So,
You know what I think we have to value again, and I feel like I'm basically just piggybacking what you just saying, like and what we don't have as much that we did have back in the day, like, but the OG, whether it's on a personal level, you feel what I'm saying, especially within our community, it's obvious, you know, there's more father figures throughout the years. Black fathers are so prominent now, you know, but in comparison to like the 90s, the 80s, it was a little different. So like niggas didn't grow up with that as much, but like just the power of an OG, like even like now, like, you know, just watching the minister talk, like my respect value for just older black individuals who have the
Yeah.
wisdom, it like
yeah,
that's I look at that as a gem, and I just think
we need that, bro.
we need to like, because the thing about it, I'm noticing, like, especially in our culture, niggas gotta value like age, because sometimes it's like the young boys is the trend, this was hot, but if you old, you watch. But I think it is changing over time. But like we have to
It's
realize,
getting there,
like,
but our culture is based on youth culture, and
yeah,
it's still young, and we haven't hit the space to fully appreciate how to honor our pioneers, how to honor our OGs. We're doing it now,
We have
a little bit, right?
Even when
Like
academics was
Kiss
talking
could
about,
put on full makeup and go to a concert and be 100 years old, and everybody be like, word. But one thing I want to say, and I hope I'm not cutting your wisdom, because I got to speak on it. You brought up the the Damager clip with Lauryn Hill, and we brought up the OGs, and I'm realizing too, just flat out, like, we not listening to our women too. I had an observation with the
Facts.
Calvin Butts protests. When I looked back at it, the language they were using against in opposition to gangster rap, it centered the treatment of women. They were talking mostly about how we were referring to our women and how we were treating our women in the art. And I thought that was an interesting take, because that's not the rebuttal to that. Can't just be like, this is my environment, I'm speaking on my environment and what I see in the hood. It was like, oh word, you know, it's interesting to hear that. And then someone I saw brought up on the internet yesterday, I believe it was a conversation with Ice Cube back when he was younger, and he was like, it starts with the black man, and then, you know, and the person was like, well, what about the black woman? And he was like, nah, if the black man this, and he wasn't really hearing her. She threw a statistic like, yo, you know, these crackheads that we talk about in the streets, like, it's predominantly women and mothers, like, in these communities.
yeah,
And so it led me to wonder if we also couldn't get behind Calvin Butts and how we took to him villainizing the culture, because the language was centering black women.
Yeah.
It was like, yo, like, we treating them wrong, and brothers wasn't trying to hear that. Young black men wasn't trying to hear that maybe at that time.
it was
So,
normalized. It was normalized.
It was
So it's like
normalized,
when you
yo,
kinda
and
call
we
it out,
keep
it's like,
normalizing
what the fuck you
it.
talking about?
We was normalizing it. So it's the voice of the OG, but it's just our listening internally, as you mentioned, and to our counterparts, of other genders. You know what I mean? So that's not the only solution, but it's
But
clearly needed.
That's what I'm saying, bro. It's so many layers
Yeah.
to it, and that's part of the reason why. Like, even with so much, I ain't gonna hold you, bro. This past month been heavy, and it's only been like 10, 11 days. But just in sense of loss, and loss on different levels, whether it's loss of life, loss of pride, or trying to strip you of your pride, you feel what I'm saying? And it's just like, kind of, not jump around, but it's kind of just popped in my head, just the whole black woman situation. And I remember I saw somebody posted in a story, and it was basically saying like, everybody talking about, black men dying, all right, what's going on, but what about the black woman? And it was like, the black woman is the most disrespected species in the world, and it just went through layers, like da 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 da, black men and black women. And then when I realized, I'm like, damn, you know what the fuck is going on? We in a battle of like who the most hurt. Like, it's
the
like
Pain Olympics.
Yeah, it's like
we in the Pain Olympics.
It's the Pain Olympics. I love that. I love that. And it's just like, nah, nigga, I'm hurt. Nah, nigga, I went through slavery. Nah, nigga, I went through Holocaust. And it's just like, yo, it's a bunch of hurt motherfuckers who are trying to be like, nah, nigga, my leg is more broke than yours. And what it comes down to is like, we all fucked up. My nigga said the hurt Olympics. It's kind of crazy, but you know what's crazy? It is the hurt Olympics, but at the same time, everyone wants to be acknowledged, and I think the acknowledgement is necessary, especially to the black woman. To be honest,
Absolutely.
But I think, okay, once we acknowledge our hurt, once we acknowledge where it's rooted from, all right, what's the next step? Because what happens is, I think it might be a human characteristic, regardless of whatever creed, niggas love to feel victimized. You feel what I'm saying? It's like, I think victimization could be like a drug too, like low-key pity or feel sorry for me shit. But it's just like, once we kind of realize where the hurt is coming from, and like, we have to go to the step of acknowledging it, then taking action to reverse it in whatever form or fashion, and it's not gonna be completed. That's why it's so many layers to this shit, bro. It's so many things. It's like, and you could go. That's what I'm saying. You could really go crazy and realize, like, yo, do we just accept the fact that not we fucked, but like, we just we in a beautiful fucked up world.
We are, but it's like, I don't want us to be like, you know what, I called Mood today so we could figure out how to fix it for black people. Like, it was, but I tell people, like, yo, revolution, and I'm, my opinion, it's just my opinion. I'm not shopping a particular ethos, but I think revolution starts in the kitchen. It starts in the crib. It starts with your the daily choices you make, like you mentioned, on what type of person you're going to be. And people forget about those micro. They think about the macro. And that's why you feel overwhelmed, where you're like, yo, what do I do first? And the answer is, we don't all have the same step to take first, right?
Whatsoever.
That's why we're not going to agree on what to do first. Collectively, black people have been victimized. We have to collectively realize that we don't have to accept being the victim any longer, that we are, beautiful and powerful and worthy of love and life and living.
Indeed.
At the same time, I recognize that I may not even have the pill that's digestible for all my brothers and sisters in presenting that, right? So it takes different voices, it takes different people in our community to do it their way. Hopefully we're unified on that. Is that life is the way, like how you do it, you could do it how you do it, but like, let's be choosing to love and live, kind of a thing, and get more comfortable with that, because the sad reality is we're about to lose if at this rate, we're lucky to have even if to debate within our community, we're lucky to have the Harry Belafontes, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's, because they're octogenarians, bro, and our community's pioneers and icons aren't even making it to 55. So we're lucky that we have access to the 85, 87, 88-year-olds, right? And also see their journeys. Some of them have fallen in older age. Bill Cosby was our father figure on TV. So there's lessons to still learn, right? But what's happening is, like, if we literally, us, like the middle of the pack, the young adults, the 30-year-olds, the cats still rapping, if we not on it away, who's gonna even be the OGs for these young gods? You know what I mean? Because they're losing their XXX Tentaciones at 21, not 27, right?
Yeah.
So it's getting like that. It's a lot of onus on us specifically, and I think maybe that's why my spirit was like, let me talk to somebody who's in a similar situation as me. Maybe that's why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling about it. You know what I mean? Because I also don't know any singular thing to do, but my hope is these conversations can be a step into figuring out the things we can do and the roles we individually play in doing that. You know,
I appreciate you for even, you know, taking taking action to even hit me up and saying, let's have this conversation, because as I mentioned, the dialogue is a necessity, and I think the first step to it all. And, you know, just to piggyback on what you just said, I think, you know, point blank period, would be stupid at this point to, like, wait around and expect help. So I think it's, at this point, it's, you know, be the change you want to see on some Gandhi shit. And he was a weirdo too, if you really read deep, but he did some good. But my whole point is,
men are weird, yo. Human beings are flawed, yo. Deeply flawed. You could give a genius message and still be flawed. You
exactly.
know?
But my whole point is, like, it's up to us. Like, we have to be those OGs, and even, like, you gotta move like it. And I'm not saying like move like, nigga, I know it all, but just like the knowledge and wisdom that you do have, spread that. Like the example that I mentioned yesterday, I'm gonna mention it again today. A perfect example would be, you riding down the block, it's a big ass pothole, you bust your lip, teeth looking crazy. You like, damn, you embarrassed. You feel what I'm saying? A couple years later, you see a young boy riding down that same block. They still didn't fix that pothole. It's your duty.
Yeah, yo.
It is your duty to be like, yo, go around, because under those leaves, it's a crazy pothole. That's why, like, niggas call me Toothless. Or whatever. You know what I'm
that's
saying?
why that's my rap name. Yeah.
But what happens is sometimes people like, nah, I want them to go through. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You know what I mean? I want them to feel my hurt. I want these niggas not to have teeth like me.
Yeah.
But it's like, you can't. You still moving off of hurt, and it's just like, how we gonna fix us if we prohibiting the next generations from receiving the knowledge that we now have based upon our experience? So it's just like, it's so internal, bro. It's just like, it's internal. I don't know, man. It's nutty, but we're not here to fix it. But I think being the best versions of ourselves, whatever that means, you know, being like spreading love, being more joyful, because I think, you know, we could talk all the shit we want right now, niggas could get on the mic or whatever, but at the end of the day, everything is based upon action.
We gotta take some actions.
Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna see if I could come up with a quick list. I got a little, you know, some takeaways, right? So, get access to some OGs. Respect OGs.
Necessity.
Knowledge of self.
Necessity, yeah.
Internal work.
Factual.
Listen to the women.
That might have to be top of the list, yeah.
That might be top of the
list. And bold. I ain't
top of the list.
Yeah.
So shout outs to Moruf, yo. If y'all don't follow him already, that's at Moruf88. If you don't know who I am, my name is Cavalier. You can follow me at CavWins. I don't know where this will live, but now that it is not just in the disposable of live or stories, it'll live somewhere. So I appreciate you, Moo. Much love, brother.
Nah, likewise, can't appreciate you, yo.
IG, peace.
Love.